Hello, I'm Weesty, and this is a video CTF write-up for the question No Eyes from PicoCTF 2017. This question is an example of a SQL blind injection exploit, and just some prerequisites. A basic understanding of SQL injections would be useful because this is a more intermediate level SQL injection. Also, the script that I'm going to be writing to actually retrieve the admin password, which is the flag, I'll be writing it in JavaScript using Node.js. So a moderate understanding of that would help to have a better understanding of what I'm writing, but it shouldn't be too hard to translate as long as you know at least any programming language in general. And I'll get to why I'm using JavaScript in a moment when I get to the script. I know a lot of people would use Python for CTF questions, but I prefer JavaScript in this example, and I'll explain why when I get there. Anyway, so let's jump into it. Here's the no eyes question. The website isn't really me much. It's a typo, I guess, but you can still get the admin password, right? So the hints we get, sometimes an error message can be just as useful. So let's open up the website. So we get a basic form login, welcome back, username, password, and let's go ahead and view the page source. It's always useful. Nothing too interesting. So the form doesn't have an action on it, which means that it'll just post back to the base URL. Also, the form, see, we have a username field, a password field, and there's no hidden field, so that's all we actually need. Let's just try something, admin password. We get incorrect password. So what this shows in the hint is that an error message can be useful. Well, this says incorrect password, which means that, like, usually a website would say user or password not found, username or password not found. But this lets us know that the username admin was found, but the password wasn't found. So if we try some random string as a username and password again, it'll say user not found. So that means that we know that there is a user called admin. Now we have to figure out the password. So there's something in this question that actually led you to believe it was a SQL injection. The title No Eyes, you're blind, so that kind of like gives away that it's a blind SQL or blind SQL injection. But I started trying SQL because the CTF had earlier questions that were SQL, that were like, they explicitly were SQL questions, and they all looked pretty much the same as this one, where they have a basic, basic form. So I just kind of assumed this was also going to be a SQL injection. So just to test it out, you can try, what this will do is it'll find the admin account, but then when it searches, tests if the password is correct, it'll see if the password is correct, or if 1 is equal to 1, and obviously 1 is equal to 1. So this should allow us to log in as admin. So we get login functionality not complete, flag is 63 characters. So what this shows us is that you can't actually log in as the admin, but you actually have to find the whole password, which I'm guessing is like 63 characters. That's a lot. You're not going to brute force 63 characters. That would take trillion, probably more than trillions of years. Yeah, I mean, the world would be over by then. Anyway, so now we have to actually find the password. Looking back on the whole error messages are useful. One other thing that I like to do in these questions is, once you know there's a SQL exploit, you can type in invalid SQL code, and sometimes it gives you like a message, of the whole string. And here we can see there's an error. Select all from users where pass equals pass, this whole thing. So this is very useful because this tells us that the field is called pass. Because sometimes the field is called password, sometimes it could be anything really, but this lets us know that the field name is pass, and that'll be useful in our SQL injection. So to show you why, here's an example. So after this, instead of testing if 1 is equal to 1, let's actually use a substring function. So that way we can check if the first character of the password is a letter. Unfortunately, substring in SQL works different from other programming languages. So there's a start, but instead of an end, there's a length. So in programming, a substring from 1 to 1 wouldn't give you anything because there's nothing between 1 and 1. But here, if you did a substring from 1 to 1, it would actually start at the first character and then a length of 1. So it's a little bit different. Another weird thing is that the first character has an index of 1. If we want to type the first character, we don't type 0 as a start, we type 1 as a start. So we would type or substring of so for pass, we know the field is called pass because of the error message we got earlier. And then I'll start from 1, with a length of 0. And here's just to show you, we're testing if 0 characters in the password is equal to a blank string. And if we log in, we'll get login function not complete. So that means we were still able to log in. So that means this was true, but obviously we want to actually test for the first character. So for instance, what you could do is test if A is the first character, log in. Incorrect password, that means it's not. You could test if B is the first character. You could go on and on and on. I know that the first letter is N, but just to show you, so if you guess that it's N, you get login functionality not complete. So that's how you can kind of brute force the whole thing, is you can go letter by letter. Once you have N, then you can go to NA. But anyway, as we see here, 63 characters, we are not going to do that on our own. That would take far too long. So we'll write a script for it instead. I'm scripting in JavaScript, and my reasoning is because, first of all, it's already used with websites, and second of all, it has like the same data types, like the same like JSONs and whatnot, which are used for post. But you can use whatever you want. This is just what I prefer. Let's start off. First, we need to implement the request module, which you can search on npm. Request is just to be able to send, get, post, whatever, to a web page. This isn't necessary, but I do it. Assert is used to test a condition, and if the condition fails, it will stop the program and print an error message, so it's useful for debugging. Next, I'll just define some variables that could be useful. So the URL that we're posting, we know is going to be right here because there's no action in it, so it's just going to post right back to the default one. And so next we're going to, just to show the layout of this script, we're going to create 3 functions. One function will be next guess, and the next guess, I'll write a little comment here soon. So the next guess function will generate the next password to guess based on whether or not previous password was correct. I need to do some spacing. So this will be our function. This will be kind of like our brute force function to keep on getting the next letter. If A doesn't work, we try B. If B doesn't work, we try C. Then also we're going to make another function called post, and post is going to take in a guess. And what post will do is post will do the actual, send the actual post to the server and get the actual response back. These could be the same function, but I think there's actually going to be a lot of code in post, and I want to make it cleaner, so I make it a separate function. And lastly, we're going to make a isValid function. So what this will do is it'll take a response from post. So when we post a server, it'll send us back an HTML file, and this will check if that, based on the response in the file, if our password was correct. So basically what we're going to be doing is, if our response contains this string right here, then we know it was correct, and if it doesn't contain that string, we know it wasn't correct. Okay, so we can start with isValid. This is one that's very simple. We can just check if body. So body is just the will be the name of the response from the server, as we'll see in the post function. We'll see if body.index of. So if the index of, we can just do shorten this down. It doesn't need to be the whole thing, of course. If that is in the string, basically. So if the index of that is greater than -1. Oh, I didn't need to write that length. Why did I write that there? Anyway, yeah, if the index of that is greater than -1, then it's true. It is valid. And otherwise, we'll just return false. Next, the post. So this is where we're going to make use of the request. So first, we're going to make our data, which is going to be, we know that what we're posting to the server has a username field and a password field because the name of the inputs in a form are the actual values being sent to the server. So we know it's going to be one is username, which is always going to be admin. No matter what the guess is, it's always going to be admin. The next will be the password, which I believe is the whole word password, right? Yeah. So this is where we're going to need to write, write this whole thing there. So we don't actually need this word pass because it doesn't actually matter. It's going to be false no matter what. So we're going to start with the ending string quote, and I'm going to have to escape the character because otherwise it would exit out of my string. So that backslash means we're escaping the character. And then after that we're going to say or substring of pass from 1, so from 1 to the length. So we need to get the length of our current guess, which is going to be obviously guess.length. So from 1 to the length, so if the substring of that is equal to, and then this is going to be very confusing how I write this, because so our guess needs to have single quotes around it, and then I also need to use single quotes to break out of the string and get back in. So it's going to look really confusing, but you know. So here's the escaped single quotes that will be around it, and then here's our single quotes to break out of the string, and then get our guess back in there. And I know that looks so confusing, but you know, that's how it is. And then we need to finish off with our comment off to prevent any errors from happening. Now, just to make sure, I'm going to actually just log the password so we can see what it looks like after it's been printed, to see if it's right, to see if it looks like I didn't mess up the string, and we'll just post ABC. So to run this, I'll just go node script.js, and so it'll be querying the server with single quote or substring pass 1 2 3 equals ABC. So that looks right. So let's see where. Okay, so now we're gonna actually send this data to the server. So we're gonna say request.post. This is where it's gonna be very different based on your programming language, because there's different ways of posting data to the server. But what this does is it takes in a URL of where you're posting, and then a form of what's being sent. That's the first argument. The second argument is a callback, and the callback is gonna so once we get data back, we'll have a callback that tells us whether there's an error or not, and then the response from the server, and then the body of the actual content. So the response from the server is going to be like a giant object of like all these headers and stuff like that, while the body will be just the literal HTML that we get. So first thing I want to do is I want to assert, that's where I'm using assert. I'm going to make sure that error is equal to null, and if not, we're going to write error when posting data to server, and then put in the error message actually. So this is where I like to use it, because I mean, if I mess up somewhere, then I would just get an error, and it would be a lot easier to debug. And then once we get our response, we're going to check if we could use is valid on the body to check if it's valid or not. But how we have this structure, we're going to tell it. So once we get a response, we're going to say, let's make another guess. And we're going to take in the last guess we just made, and we're going to tell it to make the next guess based on the idea that the last guess was either right or wrong. I'm going to add some comments here just to make this a little bit more simple. So this will actually post the form to the server. It's going to check if the response is correct. Alright, so our next guess. This is where the really fun brute force kind of thing comes in. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an array, which is actually going to be a string that's being split by nothing. I'll explain soon. But I want to make a list of all the characters that I want to guess, because like I could use an ASCII table and go from do literally everything, but I don't need to. I just want to choose the characters that I think are going to be in it, and that way it's faster. So I'll just this seems like something a human shouldn't be doing. I should write a program to automate this, but it's not worth it. X, Y, Z. Oh my gosh, X, Y, Z. I can't do the alphabet. Then A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Let me just check. I can highlight this and make sure it's 26 characters. Yeah. By the way, I'm looking. I'm looking down here. It tells me how many characters I've highlighted. It's 26. So I want to guess all the letters. And I also want to guess all the numbers. And then sometimes flags have like curly braces, parentheses, underscores. Okay. So another reason why I like to write this myself is because it takes if A is wrong, it goes to B. If B is wrong, blah 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 blah. So if the number 9 shows up a lot in the actual password, that means every single time it has to go through all of these characters to get the 9, and that it takes time for the server to respond and whatnot. So when you do it this way, you can kind of order it how you think there's what you think there's going to be in there. So I already know what the flag is, so I know what characters are up there. But in general, I would always I kind of think that's usually lowercase letters and numbers, and I know just from doing this question earlier that there's an underscore shows up a lot in there a lot too. And then like some uppercase letters, like there's actually not any uppercase letters in here, but I would still add them in here if you're doing a new question, because there usually are. And here's these symbols are kind of things that like they might show up once or twice. Like for instance, some questions the flags are like gonna be like CTF A B C D. So that's why you have those there. I mean, and this doesn't cover everything. But, like it covers like if you're doing some really weird one, you might want to add in a plus sign, a minus sign. But the point is you don't need to add them in if you don't think they're going to be there. That makes it a lot faster. Alright, so on to actually, sorry, one thing I want to do really quick is this is currently a string, and I said I would make it a list. So what you can do is you can actually split by nothing. So what split does is it finds every occurrence of a string, and it breaks that, and it like turns the string into an array. Yeah, it's easy to explain if I just if you had like the string like the man is happy. Oh, that's sexist. I'm sorry. But anyway, if you split that by an underscore, then it'll turn it into an array of wherever, like it'll break wherever that finds that. And if you give it no argument at all, it'll just break up into each individual character. So this will turn this into an array of each of these characters. Okay. So now on the next guess. First thing we're going to do is we're going to check. So if the last guess was valid, what we're going to do is first off we're going to log what our last guess was, because it was valid, and we want to have a kind of like, you'll see when we run the program we'll get like kind of like a tree of everything, of every guess that it looks like a triangle actually, but anyway, if we want to show every time we get a right character, we want to log it out, and that also lets us know that what we're doing is right and we're making progress and whatnot. Okay, so if it's valid, what this means is that we're going to take our string and we're going to post a new guess, and this is just going to be whatever the last guess was. I'll then add and then we're going to start back over from the start with a new character. So it'll be the first. It'll start back from A. So let's say if our guess so far is HGI or whatever, then we're going to start back from HGIA, HGIB, HGIC, whatever. It's going to keep on going through the whole thing like that. So otherwise, if it's not valid, this means that we're going to need to replace the last letter of our guess with the next letter in there. So if we just guessed, UHO, now we want to guess UHP, then UHQ, then URS, and whatever, and then it'll follow the pattern right here. That's how we'll program it. So first thing we need to do is we need to get the last character of what we just guessed. So to get the last character of a string, you can just do you can do the substring from and the substring starts at the length -1, and that'll get you the last character because it'll take everything from the last character onward, which is just the last character, obviously. And then next, we want to get the index of this last character, how it stands within the array. So last char index is going to equal allowed chars dot index of last char. So this will get us. It'll run through this array. And once it finds the character that was right here, it'll give us the index back. Now, one thing I want to do is, if this last character is the right parenthesis, if it's at the very end, that means we're done. Doesn't necessarily mean that we got the flag, but that means that we tried every single letter here and we couldn't get any further. So we'll write that. We'll write a little catch there. So if the index of the last character is equal to allowed characters dot length -1, because indexes are to 0 and length doesn't. But anyway, so if we get there, we're going to console.log. We're going to just tell the user reached end of characters, done. And then, oh sorry, triple equal signs because JavaScript has very weird typing issues. Anyway, so if that happens, then we're done. Doesn't mean we have the flag, but just means that just no more guesses to make. So otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to make another guess, but replace the last letter with the next letter to go. So to do that, we'll make another post, and we will post our last guess, and then take the substring. So we'll take our last guess up to the last letter. So basically the last everything. So if we had hello, we're going to take off the O, and then that's a bad word. That was a really bad example. Anyway, So we'll take off the last letter, then we'll add the next letter in line, which is going to be the next allowed character. So this will be the index the index we had last time, and then add 1 to it. And this is kind of confusing, so let me actually comment this out. So if we run the script right now, it'll actually just stop immediately, because we didn't actually tell it to do anything, we just defined the functions. So to start it off, we'll just have to post, and we want to make the first post. We could post with just the letter A, lowercase letter a, since we know that's first. But just to make the program work, if I change around the letters here, I'll just start with the first character always. And now if we run the function, it's not going to work obviously, but because we forgot to stop logging that. Oh wait, where are we? Yeah, we forgot to stop logging the password. Okay, so now if we run through the script, it's getting letter by letter, not all, we'll go through this eventually. One thing I do want to add in, if you send a lot of requests to a server, then not only can you bog down the server that you're requesting, but sometimes servers will IP ban you, or they'll give you some punishment if you send too many requests at once. So what you can do is you can prevent overloading the server, wait in between each request, variable. So the time you're starting wait will be now, and then we're going to check is in Java. This is how you do it in JavaScript. In other languages, it's so much easier to wait, but in JavaScript, you just basically say while right now is less than start wait plus, I don't know, like 50 milliseconds, something like that. And that will make you wait 50 milliseconds in between each guess. Look at that, we actually got an assertion error. Error when posting today, error econ refused. So I just ran the script again, and this time I was able to get through the whole thing. I think the biggest issue here is that because the CTF took place in 2017, in spring of 2017, and right now it's summer of 2018, they probably tuned down their servers just to save some money, because right now it's just up for practice for the year 2018. So anyway, I ran it again, and this time it worked. So we can see if I take this last password we got, login, admin, and password, just enter the password. You can see it tells us that the flag's correct. So I can come over here, submit the flag, and it'll tell me you've already submitted this flag, but it was correct. So that's a blind SQL injection. Once you understand the process, it's not too hard, but automating it is a good practice for scripting. I hope you liked my video. Be sure to, if you want more videos, you can subscribe. I'll probably be uploading more videos, maybe more from PicoCTF even. I might want to go through a Happy Union too, for instance. But thanks for watching.